Yo, what's good everybody? My name is Jay Fatty. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about how to make soulful boom bap, alright? We'll have another tutorial how to do grimy boom bap, but this is my take on some soulful, quirky boom bap. So let's get right into it. So first thing, whether you want to start with your drums first or your sample first, I personally like to find my chops first and then add drums, but I switch back and forth. Alright, so the song that I'm sampling today is Bob James Farandole, I believe that's how it's pronounced, but it's some jazz fusion, got some really nice vibes in it. I'll leave a link down in the description so you can check it out yourself. I'm not going to play it right now. We'll just play the pitched chops. So there's a bunch of different ways to chop up your samples, and we'll have more videos talking about in-depth sampling techniques. We're just going to talk about how to arrange a boom bap beat. So I'm already going to assume you have your sample chops. So what I use to get my sample chops is Serato Sample. All right, I would definitely recommend this. You throw your song in there, you can hit find samples, it finds chops for you, and you can easily add in markers and get your own chops. Let's hear what I chopped out of this song. So I got this first chop here. So what we're going to do is record those chops in. So what I can do is go up to the recording button, right click, and go to notes and automation, make sure both of those are on. All right. And I can click it to arm it. And now we're going to just play these chops. All right, so we got our chops recorded in. So I like to do a technique that I like to call the rinse and repeat method. Essentially, it's hitting that same chop like 3 times, and then after the third time you hit it, let it breathe. So for example, we're gonna hit this chop 3 times. You know what I'm saying? Boom, 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 and then you let it breathe. Rinse and repeat. I like to do that with all sorts of chops. So you heard me do it with that intro chop, and then we got this chorus or verse chop that I did it with as well. That's what I like to call the rinse and repeat. So we did that. That's a technique that I use all the time. All right, so now we're going to kind of line these chops up right. Let's listen to it. First thing I like to do is zoom in on the piano roll and do a control Q just to kind of quantize it a bit. It'll probably still be off a little bit. We'll have to mess with it. All right, so I got all my chops lined up correctly now. So what we're gonna do is do a Control A to highlight all of them and do a Control L, and that's just going to make sure they're all the right length. As long as you have it lined up to the grid. It might be a little bit of tedious work, but as long as you stick to it and know what you're trying to get out of the sample chops, you can move stuff around. Some quick tips to easily move these chops if you need to is shift and middle mouse button. You can scroll to move the chop off the grid because you might need to push it a little left or right depending on how the chop is. The sample chops aren't always perfect. And that's actually the beauty of sampling because sometimes you get those parts that are a little off beat, but it actually adds to the overall beat. So keep that in mind. But yeah, now that we got our chops here, I'm going to consolidate this, all right? So I'm going to bring it into the playlist, right click it, do consolidate track from track start. It'll highlight it, and I'll hit start to consolidate all of these into one. Now it does have a tail here. I'll just press C on my keyboard to get the slicer, shift and left click to delete that. Another thing that I like to do is I like to detune it a little bit. So I'm going to double click it, go to range, bring this up to 12, go into the pitch, type in value and do -32. We'll talk more about this another time. I'll make sure it's also on stretch, but I do like to do this to pretty much all my samples. Gets it into 432 hertz. So now that we have our chops, we can decide if we want to add drums or not. And there are definitely parts I want to add drums, especially this verse part right here. What I'm going to do is add a different pattern and drag it out to like 4 bars. I can just copy that over. All right. Now, the drums that I like to use are Count drums by Count Cole. Those are pretty much the only drums that I use, especially for boom bap. There are really some exceptions sometimes, but rarely ever. So Count Drums Volume 3, Count Drums Memory Bank Drum Pack 3, Count Drums Volume 4, Volume 5. They're all amazing. All of his drum packs are dope. But I use the Count's Memory Bank Drum Pack 3 a lot. I'll have this linked in the description for you. I use the snares in here a lot. And then if we go to Count's Drums Volume 3, there's some really dope kicks in here that I like to use, like the After Party kick. I'm going to put that in. And then I'm also going to go to the Memory Bank Drum Pack 3 and get some snares. I like the shag snares, Pisces snares, Tide snares. All the snares in here are pretty freaking good. Snare. Let's start with these sounds here. So we're just going to go with a normal boom bap drum pattern, all right? I definitely like to layer snares. This Tide snare, though, does not sound like it fits, so maybe we'll try like a deep pocket snare. That sounds pretty good. So let's keep this pattern going here. So that's already a nice little vibe. Now, we can decide to try and take the drums out of the sample or just use them. Like, because a lot of times in your sample chops, there are drums. You could just use those and add on to your own rhythm in the drums. Like if we listen to the sample with the kick and snare we got. Hi-hat, there's an open hat. There's a shaker in the left ear a little bit. We can use all of those. We can even go off of that rhythm. So let's add our own hi-hat and just kind of layer it with what's already there. You know what? Let's even add like a ride hit. I decided to add a little ride hit at the end there, and I really like what it's doing with the drums. And this open hat and hi-hat, a trick we can do here. So to make it sound more realistic, I mean, it won't make much of a difference in this track because this open hat is layered with an open hat in the sample. And so the open hat in the sample is way longer than this one. So that one's really what the ear is going to be hearing the most compared to this one. But I still would like to make this sound realistic. So what we can do is when this hi-hat is going, or when the open hat hits and then the hi-hat comes back in, we want it to cut the open hat because realistically when a drummer's playing, the open hat and hi-hat, that's the same thing. So when they hit the open hat and go back to the hi-hat, they're just closing it. So we want it to kind of have that effect. So what we're going to do is open up the hi-hat, go into the wrench here, and make sure it's on cut group 1, okay? Now we're going to go into the open hat, go into the wrench here and do the exact same thing. But let's put it on cut by group 1. That's just saying anytime any element in group 1, the element in group 1 being the hi-hat, anytime that hits and this open hat is going and detects it, it's going to cut its sound when it detects that other sound signal. So if we just listen to the hi-hat and open hat, let's get a better example. If I put an open hat right in between these two hits, you hear how it was very short? So that's how you can kind of get that effect there. We might add a crash sound here. These are really good to help with transitional elements. Let's put it right at the beginning of our loop. That's not the right crash. Let's see. We're going to even actually mess with this sound a little bit. So let's open it up. Let's mess with the out because we don't want all of that tail end of the reverb on the crash. All right, that sounds all right. All right, so what we're going to also do here is a lot of times with these one shots, it puts on playback use loop points, and sometimes that could layer onto your shots and make the sound louder than what you want it. So I just always take that off and always take load regions off. So I'll always go in here and just do that to all my sounds. Maybe tedious, but I don't want to run into any issues later. Now what we're going to do is also add swing to these drums. So I'm going to start on my first drum element, left click and drag to highlight all of the elements, go up to the drop down arrow and do set swing mix for selected 75%. What that's going to do is, since we highlighted all of them, in each one of these sounds, if we go over to the wrench here, you can go over to time and you see there's a swing knob here. This swing mix is set to 75% for all of these, which means when we mix in the swing with this main swing knob up here, all of these elements will be affected only 75% of that swing. So it gives it a little bit more of a humanized feel. Now, if you want to know exactly how the swing is affecting it, I'll leave a link to the Image Line forum that's talking about swing, because I could go into that and it would be a whole nother video. Yeah, while we have all of these highlighted, after you did the set swing mix for selected, choose whatever percent, you go up to the main swing knob here and mix it in. Let's bring it up to like right here. Let's hear how it sounds. Up all the way is too much swing. You can really hear it with this kick here, these double notes. So let's bring it about like right here. And now for parts like this where I was hitting that same chop, let's do something different with the drums. I'm just going to bring the pattern over here and bring it to this little chop here, just so I can have it hit 4 times as well. Now see, I don't like that. So let's actually create a new pattern. And let's just put in a kick right here. Let's put in 2 kicks. Like this. I will just do something like that, and I can bring this back, and I'm holding shift, left click, and drag to duplicate it. Like that. We'll do that same thing over here. So what's even interesting is this little chop right here. That's pretty fire. We can have a moment where this is just repeating for a little bit. I really like doing stuff like this. And then we bring the drums in. We might have to change the drums up a bit. See, that can get stagnant if it goes for too long, but if we just have it repeat for a little bit, it could be pretty hard. And I just duplicated this ending bit here. Let's hear how that sounds. Maybe take the drums out for that bit. Bring these transition drums that we added earlier with the kick. So for example, here in the beginning part of my intro, the sample's a little messed up, but I actually kind of like how it sounds because it just adds some extra flavor if we listen. See how you hear how it doesn't chop right, but it still kind of sounds dope. So even little like mistakes like that actually could be valuable to the beat. So don't be sleeping on that. So that's pretty much it on making the beat. The arrangement's pretty much there. We might add a little bit more to the arrangement, but next video we're going to talk about mixing and a little bit about mastering and when you should master your beats, when a good instance of that would be. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you watch this whole video, let me know if you like these long form videos. I'll definitely be doing more of them. And check out my shorts if you want some more short form content. I appreciate everybody. Make sure you stay safe, stay striving, and always be getting it. Much love, y'all. Peace.